up, everyone? It's Billy here, Billy Kayaks, with Strictly Kayak Fishing Podcast. And we're here with the winner from the most recent tournament. We cover OKF, CKF, really anything in Ohio. And CKF, Cincinnati Kayak Fishing, the winner from the Rocky Fork, Paint Creek, Jason Myers. How's it going, man?
Pretty good. Yourself?
Going pretty good. And 20 minutes later, we started recording, and I'm sorry, man. I had the issues. Normally, I do a test with everyone. I'm like, test. I'm like, and I get it all dialed in, and I was the one with issue. So sorry about that.
No problem.
Yeah. But what that means is you and I have talked for like 15 minutes about all the things. And we kind of started with, well, one of the things I jumped in about was like the kayaks that you're fishing out of. So you're fishing out of the Outback and the Passport. Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah. And then you said the Passport was, you got that for your wife so she could go out with you. So
Yes.
when you're fishing in the Outback, that in my mind is like completely rigged out with the fish finder and all the rod holders and all the things. Is she fishing, or is she following along and just like cheering you on? Like, what's her role in this?
When we go, she has her own little, rod box, and her little tackle box and the rod holders. And she has, she has 5 or 6 rods. She throws bait casters, she's a pretty good little fisherman.
Yeah. So what is, I don't want to make this about your wife. What's her name?
Jackie.
I don't want to make this about Jackie and not Jason, because we have a lot to celebrate with Jason. But what's Jackie like? What's her, does she sign up for the tournaments?
No, she's not into that.
But if she did,
she'd probably, some of the lakes, she knows Callan really well because when we do fish together, we use my bass boat, and she knows all the spots that I fish. So she could get a nice limit at Callan if she would fish it.
So that's what we got to do. 2025. That's the year. We got to get the, so was she at the measuring? Because I wasn't at the measuring because I didn't fish that CKF. And thank you to Chris Anderson for hosting all that and doing everything. Was Jackie at the measuring?
No, she can't. I won Atkin last year, and we live in Monroe, so in the measure-in was at Hamilton Bait and Tackle, which is 10 minutes from my house. So she come down to that for that one last year.
Okay. And that was cool. So she was able to, what, you like called her and said, "Hey, get over here."
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not the first. We've had many anglers that are like, they'll call, and then some of them have like kids, and they have other people that support them, wives and girlfriends and whatever. And it's like, "Hey, get to the lake, get to the measure-in." Yeah. It's one thing to thank sponsors and family and just thank people, but it's completely different if they can be there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because they understand the sacrifice. Well, Jackie understands sacrifice because she's out on the lake. So our goal is to get her out in a CKF. What if we pay for the entry fee?
I don't know. I've tried to talk her into it, and she just she just doesn't want to sit in a kayak for 8 hours.
Yeah, neither do I. So we share something there. So the first time we talked, we kind of did a deep dive into your TourneyX stats, because anyone who pays for the upgrade on TourneyX, like all your buddies can go in and like see how you're doing, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty cool. The first thing I noticed was, well, I noticed a bunch of other things, but we already talked. So now that we're back for talk number 2, Northern Kentucky Lakes 2023, you got a 20 and a half. That's a big fish.
Yeah. And I lost one bigger that morning. that tournament there really, that's that was the first year, and I mean I'm still struggling to this day, of landing fish. I can hook them, but landing them's the other problem. I mean, it's completely different, from a bass boat to a kayak, because bass boat you can just sling them on the back deck, and kayak you have to figure out how to get them in the kayak.
Yeah. Well, you say that, but then I also see 20 and a half, 20 and a half, 20 and a half. So you had other tournaments, and
Yeah,
even this smallmouth, Buddy Smallmouth, that was a 20 and a half smallmouth you caught?
yeah,
Man, I've always said to anyone who ever asked me, no one ever asked me. So maybe it's just me talking at people. A 20-inch smallmouth in Ohio, anyway, like that's the holy grail in my
yes.
mind, because an 18 is a fish Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
So a 19 is like, oh my gosh. And then a 20 is like, wow. And you caught a 20 and a half. So, I don't want to know where you caught it. I don't want to know all the details or whatever, but what's your memory around your 20 and a half inch smallmouth?
I caught it on a Evergreen SB 125, and it was on a little stick right in the middle of the river.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Where'd you get the SB?
At that time, I probably ordered it from Tackle Warehouse or something.
Okay.
But
I didn't know if you got it. I wasn't sure about the Hamilton bait because you said you live close to Hamilton bait. I love them, by the way. They're
yeah,
so good. They support um, CKF, OKF, Hamilton Bait and Tackle. They're amazing. One of the things I love about Tackle Warehouse, they opened a new warehouse in Georgia.
oh nice.
So, yeah, it used to be you would buy something from Tackle Warehouse and you may or may not get it.
Yeah,
And now you get it within a couple of days. So if Hamilton Bait sells it, still go to Hamilton Bait and buy it.
yeah.
But Tackle Warehouse will also send you your stuff.
No,
And then
Ben started carrying them after I asked him to put them in there.
see, I knew there was a story there. Yeah. Ben he's so great. We interviewed him. I don't know if you guys look back on some of the things. Um, you'll see we interviewed him, and great, and just seeing him every year because I'm in Columbus, so I don't always get to go down to Hamilton Bait and Tackle, but I order from them all the time online.
Yeah.
But usually when I see him, it's at the Columbus Fishing Expo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and man, so much work. Not just for them, but for Strictly Sale, Hamilton Bait, like all of these companies that, like, man, their trailers, they load up everything. I feel like they load up their whole shop.
Yeah, he does. I mean, yeah, when they're at their shows, their shop's pretty.
Yeah.
Not all of it, but a lot of it's gone, especially all the JDM stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Um, so we were talking a little bit about some of your just overall stats. So you already know these, but for everyone listening, before we get into Rocky Fork and start talking about your first place finish there, I think we already said you got first place. If we didn't, surprise, Jason got first place. Total tournaments 36, but 5 first place finishes, 3 second place, 3 third place, and 23 top 10 finishes. Kind of seems like you know what you're doing.
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit, yeah. And you tried to, the first time we were talking before I messed up the recording, you kind of talked about the bass boat, and you talked a little bit about your dad and kind of growing up in the bass boat and figuring that out. But
Yeah.
But then you got kayaks, and then you went out and you're doing it on your own. And these stats, I mean, everything I just read off, that was you. That was you in a kayak. So congratulations,
Yeah.
man.
Thank you.
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about the morning, not just the morning, but like the pre-fishing leading up to Rocky Fork. And then what was your mindset going into it? Because we already talked about Paint Creek was off limits,
Yes.
flooded. There was like horrible rain. It rained for like 6 days, 7 days.
Oh, it was awful. Yeah.
Yeah. So Rocky Fork was the only one in play, and then you you were the only one to call a fish. Even second place. I'm not saying second place didn't call a fish because they might have. And CKF is 8-inch fish, but you were throwing back, 14, 15-inch fish, and you were the only one that was consistently calling fish. So you were on the fish. But start from the beginning of your. I'll shut up. Talk to me about like from the beginning of your day.
Well, like I said, Friday I went over and pre-fished probably 4 or 5 hours, and I found uh, some offshore stuff that there was fish and I did find another spot on the opposite end of the lake that had some fish on it, but I never even made it to that. And tournament morning, I was heading. I well, actually, the night before I couldn't sleep because when I was pre-fishing, I caught a 19 and a half. I shook two off, and I could just with my electronics, I could see how many fish was in the area. So that morning, I took off and went to the first spot, and I was at first I was worried because the water temperature had dropped 6 or 7 degrees from where I was at there Friday, but it didn't stop them. They were still there. My second cast, I caught 15 and a half. And then my fourth cast, I caught one 17 inches. And over the next hour, hour and a half, I ended up limiting it out. And then that's when I started calling the fish. I was just throwing a jig, casting a jig for the first part of the morning. Then as the day went on, I started getting a few on a jackhammer, uh, up on a pad flats, and then the last couple hours of the day, I was fishing 6 to 8 foot of water, and I was fishing offshore wood is what I was fishing, and end up calling. I think I called 3 times in my around from 1:30 to 2:30. I had two 17s, another 16. Um, and I got all those off the same piece of wood out in the middle. Um, like I said, 6 8 foot of water.
Nice. So if I'm hearing you right, you said fourth cast. Well, I have two things. Fourth cast, you catch your second fish, like 17 or whatever. You're talking about your fourth cast of the day?
Yes.
Okay, so I want to bring this up. So uh oh my gosh, it's gonna take a minute. Now everyone's gonna be like, what are you doing? Okay. 17, 27, so 32. Okay. So 32 inches. You had you were in 12th place and like forecast.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the other and then obviously you won the thing, but and then the other thing was like you said 6 or 7 degrees from practice.
Yeah, it was 52. It was 52 when I was practicing, and when I got to my spot that morning, it was 46.
Oh my gosh. So how much of that, because we talked about like your experience, just bass fishing in general, like is that normal or was that there was a front that moved through? It was the air
The
temperature blowing across the water? Like
the,
how'd that happen?
the, the 2 nights before we got down in the low 30s. Friday night and Saturday night we got in the low 30s. It just drove it down. And that spot I only caught two off of, and then I went on down the bank and I was actually in between two pad flats, and there was a hard bottom in between the two pad flats, and the water was like 40, 48 degrees, and they were in between those two pad flats on that hard bottom. They were just loaded in there, and I sat on right in that area right there probably for 2 hours, and I don't know how many I caught.
Wow. So is that an area that you're familiar with when, like, even in the summer when the pads are up? Nope. You're like, nope.
I had no clue it was there, and I was just because that spot I started on, I caught those two fish and missed one, and had another one just tick me, and he never took it. And I was like, I know they went somewhere. I just said, all I got to do is find some water, which is just a couple degrees warmer, and that's where they're going to be at. And that's where they were. They were about 200 yards on down, and at the water warm was, instead of 46, it was, I think, 48 and a half.
So you're like actively monitoring your fish finder for the water temperature. Like as you're moving,
Yeah,
you keep, yeah. How far? You probably just said it and I missed it, but how far was it? 100 yards, 200 yards?
it was maybe 200 yards from where I was at, where I
Mm,
found them at, and they just had went to that, because this wood was in mud, and they just went to a hard bottom, and the water was 2.5 degrees warmer, and it was only 2.5 foot, and they were just loaded in there.
yeah. So the first thing you think of, like as an angler or bass angler, tournament angler, you think of like the rocks, and you think the sun is warming up the rocks and all that versus the wood on the mud bottom. Was it sunny or was it still overcast? Did the rocks?
It it was at that point it was still overcast. It was
Mm,
just I mean I really don't know why it was warmer, but it was.
yeah.
Yeah,
Wow, that's cool. And then you said you were, you're throwing a jig, right? You said a jig.
yeah.
And then so with your jig, is it like a football head, a swim jig? Do you feel like, 3/4,
I
eighth, a quarter, like did the weight matter? Did the color matter? Talk to me about your jig.
I throw the same jig from all year long. It's a 5/16 DNL Advantage jig. It's the only jig I throw all year long, whether I'm fishing a foot of water or I'm fishing 20 foot of water. I don't change. It's the same jig I always throw.
Well, you know what? That's confidence bait right there.
Yeah,
Throwing the same bait. So
yeah,
yeah. Well,
yeah.
what is your setup like? And I know I don't get too much into the rod and reel and the line. I don't really do that anymore when I interview people. But when the conditions are so difficult, like I do kind of wonder, like, so talk to me about that. Like your line setup. Do you do braid to leader? What's your leader line, or just straight fluoro, or what's your rod and
Straight.
reel? Like, yeah,
I throw straight 20-pound fluoro uh, on a 8-to-1 metanium and a 7.6 little Miami Outfitter Proteus.
yeah. Um, well, you got first place, and my my favorite part is that you're fishing out of a Hobie. Anyone who's watching can see my hat. I already told you I feel like Melissa when I'm wearing the hat that Melissa has. And Strictly Sale has a bunch of hats. This is quickly becoming like my favorite one. I put it on. I kind of, you bend your hat and you kind of
Yeah,
whatever. But you're fishing out of a Hobie, and I have a PA-14 and a Compass and an Outback and then an inflatable. And you talked about the two that you fish out of, and there's so many options out there. And kayaks are getting, some of them are getting so big, and then some people are getting smaller. Like there's some brands that are getting smaller with kayaks instead of
yeah.
bigger. And the Hobie kayaks, I just love it. And look, Strictly Sale, who's a without Strictly Sale, we couldn't do this. CKF, OKF. So huge shout out to them. That's the reason I bring this up. But um, they sell other kayaks, not just the ones that that you and I fish out of. But I like a part of me wants to think that because you're fishing out of an Outback, that that's why you won.
I would like, well, eventually I'm going to get me a PA 14 with because I think if I have a troll motor and I'm able to stand, I think I'll do a lot better. The two tournaments I fished so far this year on the CKF, I have not lost a fish in either tournament. And I mean, that's, I mean, it's hard.
Wow.
That's rare to say, but every fish that I've hooked, I've got in the kayak because I did pretty good at Caesar Creek too on the first tournament.
Where'd you finish Caesar's
Second,
Creek? Second.
second, yeah,
Okay.
I had
Yeah.
almost 83 inches there too.
Yeah. Look at me doing my research. Should have known that. So, and then how do you transport your kayak, your Outback when you're going to a tournament?
I just have a little trailer.
Oh, so you do have a trailer. Okay. Because I throw mine in, even my PA, I put it in the back of my truck.
Yeah, I have a Sequoia, so it's not gonna fit in the back of Sequoia.
Nope. Nope. That is true. But some people think some of the bigger kayaks can't fit in the back of I have a Tacoma, 5.5 foot bed. So yeah, yeah. But
Just a little extension put on there. Or
yeah,
you
yeah,
use
I have a little,
extension.
yeah, I have the little, it's a Yakima one, and it when you're not using it, it folds up, so it's out of the way when you're not using it. I know
Yeah,
there's another one that kind of, it's kind of there, and you have to like remove it or whatever. But yeah, yeah, man, it's great. So you are, I mean, I would think, you know what? I'm gonna be honest. I think I knew you got second place, and I forgot.
oh,
I say that to say that like you're probably one of the favorites now to win CKF for the year, right?
uh, I mean, I don't know. I mean, uh, I jinx myself. It seems like every year. First year I fished it, I finished second overall, and then last year going into the last event, I was leading it, and just I sucked it up the last tournament. and,
Where
and
was uh the
Indian Lake,
TOC? Oh, Indian Lake. Oh
yeah,
yeah, and it was a 2 day, right?
yeah. Sean just blew right past all of us.
That guy. Yeah. Yeah. He's caught a couple of fish, but even like for this trail, like a lot of the anglers that fish, if you look at all the names, um, even a top 5, top 10 on the season is like really good.
Yeah,
But to get like a top 3, to get a trophy, to take a trophy home is like this is a big deal.
yeah,
Yeah, I selfishly want. I don't know how to make it happen, but I selfishly want like some of our Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky, Indiana anglers, and Ohio, like Central Ohio, all those guys too. But I selfishly want them to fish like some of these national tournaments, even if it's like one here and one there.
yeah,
I want them to go win and not win. Well, I do want them to win, but I want them to go like show what they can do.
yeah.
Yeah. So, well, good job, man. What's the 2 tournaments aside going forward? Like, what are your favorite CKF or tournaments in general? Like, what are you looking forward to?
Actually, the next three we have are set up pretty good. We got Brookville coming up, middle of May. Um, then we have, I think, Acton the first weekend of June and Cowan the last weekend of June. I mean, those three tournaments there are set perfect for when we should fish them.
Yeah. Yeah, man, I've heard so many good things about Brookville. I've never fished it, but I've heard so many good things about Brookville. And then I have fished the other 2 you talked about. So,
Yeah.
um, good luck, man. You're gonna win. You're gonna win one of them. What do you like? Do you set goals going into like individual tournaments, or do you just go out and fish and have fun?
No, I when any tournament I go to, I mean, I
Yeah,
expect to win, and
yeah. I can tell. I get
yeah.
when I was like, "Do you just want to have fun?" You were like, "No."
No, I mean, I really do expect, to go in and do really well. Last year I did win two. I won Brookville one and I won Acton. And then I think a couple top threes the rest of the way.
Yeah, which
Count,
yeah,
Count's the one I want. I mean, that's the one I want to win.
Yeah. Well, if you won Brookville and Acton, I mean, it, I don't know. It explains why you're excited for the upcoming tournaments.
Yeah.
Also, it explains how you got second place. But the TOC prize was a Hobie compass. You already have one. What are you getting greedy? What okay, let me ask you this. Would you have kept it and then you had two compasses, or would you?
Uh, I don't think I thought the one for CKF was
Oh, you're
a,
right. That was OKF.
yeah,
Yeah. Look at me. See,
yeah.
I got good thing you're on here, Jason. You're keeping me straight. What was the TOC prize for CKF?
um,
Probably money.
I think it was a new canoe, wasn't it?
Okay.
Maybe a paddle new canoe, 10-footer or something.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Yeah. And shame on me for messing up that detail, but strictly sale, giving out kayaks for those prizes. That's pretty cool. And then rogue fishing. We had we had a tournament already. OKF, we had a tournament, and like I'm pretty sure everyone got a prize, like a rogue fishing or a hat or something. And
Yeah.
I've been to plenty of tournaments where you didn't get a prize or there wasn't a measure in, and that's not hard to pull off. There's a lot of volunteer stuff going on, and there's a lot of work to try to get sponsors. So to have strictly like step up and get some sponsors for us and have all that happen, that was pretty cool. And I was happy because I didn't catch a fish at Alum for OKF. And to see people walk away with a prize was good.
Oh, I fished that event and I sucked it up.
Yeah.
Uh,
Did you come to the major end or did you take off?
no, I didn't. I didn't come to the measure end. No.
Yeah. I wish I would. Yeah, we should have left together. Um,
I actually left. I had two. I had measured two fish in, and I had a 12 and a half and a 13 and a half in the live well, and I totally forgot about it. So I ended up leaving like at 2:30 because I was just like, "There's no way I'm only catch these guys."
yeah.
I left 25 inches in the live well.
Oh, you didn't even submit them.
No, I mean I wasn't in points. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. All right. Well,
Yeah.
there's some people finished behind you that were happy about that. But you're doing really good with the CKF. Um, talk to me. Tell me a little bit about because we already talked about the bass boat, and like we talked about a little bit, like growing up fishing with your dad and a bass boat and everything. How'd you get into kayak fishing?
Um, I the main reason I bought the kayak was so I could fish the river. And I live right here in Monroe, so the rivers. I mean, I can literally walk to it if I wanted to. It's less than a 2-minute walk from where I live at. And I got the kayak to fish the river, and uh, Brandon and Mike and Chris had convinced me to start fishing these the CKF, and I in 23 I started fishing them. So basically it was just to fish the river. I love catching river smallmouth, and I catch a lot of big river smallmouth throughout the year.
Yeah, man. And then all the people we meet and I'm not saying bass boat, you're not going to meet people because I don't I was never part of that world. So I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. But the kayak anglers, like you said, Brandon and Chris and Mike, like, man, there's so many good people you meet.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep. I love it. All right, man. Well, I told you I wouldn't keep you on here forever. Sorry about the little hiccup at the beginning, but
That's
I want to make sure that you have time at the end. Like, is there any sponsors or family or anyone you want to give a shout out to or thank for all the kayak fishing that you do?
biggest is my wife. Putting up with it. You know. I fish a lot, and she doesn't ever have an issue with it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we're trying to get her out there, so I'll try to work on that. She's gonna see me and she'll stay in the car. I'll be like, keep that guy away from me. So, man, I love it. Every time, I fish a lot of the OKF, um, and I'll judge a lot of the CKF, and your name is always up there. I'm always judging your fish. Wait, what board do you have? I'm trying to think about your catch board.
It's the yellow catch.
Okay, you have the carbonate. Okay. I
Yeah.
recently bought the blue one because it's my favorite, the catch carbonate, the catch X, the blue one. It's my favorite one to judge. I have two of the carbonate because they're lighter and we're in a kayak. So why wouldn't we have the
Yeah.
lighter catch board? But as far as a judge, that's my favorite one. But yeah,
I
man.
have I have the red 32 steel one, but it's hard to read it's hard to read the numbers.
Yeah.
When it gets a little bit dirty, you can't even hardly see
Yep.
where it falls at.
You're not wrong. The red one it might be the worst when it's
Yeah.
dirty.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but you can, when it's clean, if you clean it up before but
Yeah.
and then I always ask people before I give anyone feedback on their catch board, I'm like, are you superstitious? And they're like, no. I'm like, okay, your board is dirty. Clean it. Because I don't want them blaming me.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, all right, man. Well, listen, it was great. It was great chatting with you. You said you're going to do the kayak adventure series as well.
Yes. Yeah.
All right, Father's Day weekend. That's going to be a lot of fun. Are you doing the bass, like the Bassmaster National Championship on Alum?
No.
Okay, because that one's going to be pretty cool. Those are the only two other than the things we've talked about that I'm doing.
Yeah.
So, Kayak Adventure Series is obviously not affiliated with this podcast, but we promote all things Ohio, and it's Father's Day weekend based out of Springfield. Kayak Adventure Series, go on their website. But if you want to know any of the rules for Ohio kayak fishing or Cincinnati kayak fishing, please go to the website, check it out. It's because a lot of people have asked recently. It's KBF rules with a little bit of a twist where we want to make sure it makes sense for the anglers. So if there's a bass rule or some other rule that makes more sense, we want to make sure that we make it make sense for our Ohio anglers. And 2026, spoiler alert, we'll probably come out with like our own rules for OKF, CKF for 2026 and make it a lot easier for the anglers to figure out what we're doing. Going to be very similar to what we're doing right now. So, huge congratulations, Jason Myers. First place. You got another trophy? Do you have a trophy case?
No, I got them up. I got them.
Yeah. Got him on top of the. Oh, dude, whatever. He's like, no, I don't have a trophy case. And then shows me 5 trophies. All right. So maybe one day you'll get a trophy case for your background.
Yeah.
But
I still want a red first place one. I haven't got a red first place one.
yeah, they're all blue. You got the blue and then the one wood trophy. So congratulations, man. You've been killing it. Thanks for coming on here. I know I talk a lot. I feel it. I hear it in my own head. So you've been amazing. And thank you, everyone. Please tune in again next time. We're going to keep doing this all year. Thanks, Jason.
All right. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.